In the bustling heart of Lagos, where the horns never stopped blaring and life never slowed down, lived Amara Nwosu, a woman admired for her beauty and calm grace. Her husband, Chike Noyasu, was a successful businessman, or at least that's what everyone believed. Their home stood tall and proud among the wealthiest in their estate, painted in white marble and guarded by men in crisp black suits. To outsiders, they were the picture of perfection, love, power, and success wrapped into one. But Amara often felt something cold behind her husband's warm smile. There were nights he wouldn't come home. Mornings he'd return, smelling of cigar smoke and something metallic, not perfume, but iron, like blood. She once asked him, softly, "Chike, where do you go at night?" He only laughed, pulling her close. "You ask too many questions, my love," he said, kissing her forehead. "Some answers are better left alone." Her unease grew with each passing day. One evening, while cleaning his study, Amara found an old wooden box tucked beneath the bookshelf. The lock was rusted, but curiosity had a stronger pull than fear. She pried it open and froze. Inside were photographs of strange men, all with red circles drawn around their faces. Each photo had a date scribbled behind it, and the last one was that very day. Her hands trembled as she placed the photos back. Before she could close the box, she heard his car pull into the driveway. Heart racing, she shoved the box back under the shelf and ran to the kitchen, pretending to prepare dinner. When Chike entered, his face glistened with sweat, though the night was cool. "Amara," he said slowly, "did you touch anything in my study?" She shook her head, forcing a smile. "No, I was just cleaning." He watched her for a long, heavy moment. Then his lips curved into that same unsettling grin. "Good," he whispered, "because that room holds things not meant for you." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay awake, listening to the clock tick, her husband's slow breathing beside her, and her own heart pounding in terror. In the silence, she heard a faint sound, a whisper, soft but real, coming from the study. She rose from bed, careful not to wake Chike, and tiptoed across the corridor. The door creaked as she pushed it open. Candlelight flickered on the desk, and there, written in dark ink on the wall, were the words, "Sins must be fed." Before she could make sense of it, she heard footsteps behind her. Chike was standing in the doorway, his eyes shadowed, voice low and calm. "I told you not to come in here," he said, holding something in his hand, a small black mask. "Now you'll have to understand what I've been hiding." The candle blew out. The room fell into darkness. Amara woke up the next morning drenched in sweat. Her last memory from the night before was Chike standing in the study, the candle blowing out and his shadow moving toward her. When she opened her eyes, it was daylight, and she was lying on the couch, not in the study. Her head throbbed. The words, "Sins must be fed," echoed in her mind like a drumbeat she couldn't silence. Chike sat at the dining table, sipping tea as if nothing had happened. "You fainted last night," he said smoothly when she entered. "I told you to stop working so hard." His voice was calm, his smile warm, but Amara saw the faint trace of ash on his sleeve, and something dark beneath his fingernails. "Did I?" she murmured, feigning confusion. She couldn't let him know, she remembered. For the rest of the day, she watched him closely. Chike left home at exactly 6 in the evening, as he always did. saying he had business meetings. But this time, Amara decided she would follow him as soon as his car disappeared down the street. She threw on a shawl and grabbed her keys. The city's neon lights painted the roads in red and blue as she drove behind him at a distance. He turned off the highway after 20 minutes, heading toward a part of town she'd never seen before. Old warehouses by the riverside. He stopped near a large, abandoned factory. From the shadows, Amara watched him open the trunk of his car and pull out a black mask, the same one she'd seen last night. Then 3 other men appeared from the darkness, all wearing identical masks. They greeted him with quiet respect. "Brother Chaik," one of them said. "The offering is ready." The words made Amara's blood turn cold. What offering? What were they talking about? Chaik nodded and followed them into the factory. Amara crept behind and peeked through a broken window. Inside, candles flickered in a circle around a symbol drawn on the ground. At the center of the circle lay a small goat, trembling. The men began to chant in a language she didn't understand, rhythmic and ancient dot. Then Chaik raised a dagger. Amara's hand flew to her mouth to stop the scream. The blade came down fast, and the chanting grew louder. Blood spilled onto the floor, soaking the strange symbol. The men bowed their heads, as if worshipping something unseen. When it was over, Chaik took off his mask, staring down at the animal. His face was blank, emotionless. "One more debt repaid," he whispered. Until the next, Amara stumbled back, horrified. She ran to her car and drove home, tears blurring her vision. Every lie, every smile, every gentle word, it all made sense now. Her husband wasn't a businessman. He was part of something dark, something evil. But as she reached home and tried to catch her breath, she noticed something that froze her blood again. The front door was already open. Slowly, she stepped inside. On the dining table sat the wooden box, open, and on top of the photographs, a fresh one had been added. Her face, her knees weakened. There was no mistake. The photo had been taken that very night. In the corner of the picture, written in red ink, were 3 words: "You were warned." A sound came from behind her, a whisper, then footsteps. Amara turned around slowly, clutching the edge of the table. Chaik stood there in the doorway, no mask this time. His expression was calm, but his eyes glowed with something inhuman. "I didn't want you to find out like this," he said softly. "But now you know. And knowledge comes with a price." The lights flickered. The candles from the factory appeared to dance in her memory. She stepped back, shaking her head. "You're not the man I married," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "No, Amara, I never was." That night, Amara didn't sleep. Every corner of the mansion felt alive, as if the walls themselves were whispering. The photograph of her face on the table burned into her mind. Chaik had gone out again, leaving her with a warning. Don't leave the house tonight. But how could she stay? The man she once loved was a stranger. No, something worse, just before midnight. Amara gathered her courage and took the car keys. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she had to find answers. Driving aimlessly through the city, she remembered a name she had seen scrawled in one of Chaik's ledgers, Mama Ngozi. The name appeared beside strange symbols, and the words, "Guardian of the Gate," in Nigeria. Every city had its share of whispers, stories of old women who walked between worlds. Healers who could see what eyes could not. Amara followed those whispers. After hours of searching, she arrived at a small compound at the edge of town. A red cloth hung over the gate, fluttering in the wind. The air smelled of incense and old earth. She knocked once. No answer. Knocked again. Finally, the door creaked open, revealing a wrinkled woman in white robes, eyes clouded with age but sharp as glass. "I knew you would come, Mama," Josie said, her voice like dry leaves. "The spirits have been restless." Amara hesitated. "You know me?" The old woman nodded slowly. "I know your husband's darkness, and I know the curse that binds him." She motioned for Amara to enter. Inside, the room glowed with candlelight. Skulls of goats and charms hung from the ceiling. A pot simmered in the corner, releasing the scent of herbs and smoke. Amara sat on the floor, heart pounding. "Please," she whispered, "tell me what he's done." Mama Ngozi closed her eyes and placed her palms over a bowl of water. The surface rippled. "Your husband, Chaik, was chosen by a secret brotherhood, men who believe wealth is bought with blood. Every life he takes feeds their god of prosperity. The words written on your wall, 'Sins must be fed,' are their vow." Amara's chest tightened. "He sacrifices people, animals." At first, the old woman said grimly, "But when the spirit grows hungry, it demands more." The ones in the photographs, they were not strangers. They were his brothers in the circle, each one paying his price. Amara's eyes widened. "And now, my picture?" Mama Ngozi's face darkened. "It means your soul has been chosen next. Once you saw the ritual, the spirit marked you. You must leave before the next moon rises." "But where can I go?" Amara cried. "He'll find me." "There is only one way to break the curse," Mama Ngozi said, lowering her voice. "You must destroy the Whispering Shrine, the place where he first made the blood pact. It lies deep in the forest, near the River of Ashes. Burn it, and his bond will crumble. But be warned, the spirit will not let you go easily." A sudden gust of wind blew through the hut. The bowl of water rippled violently, and a deep voice echoed from within it, low, monstrous, whispering Chaik's name. Amara screamed, backing away. Mama Ngozi threw a powder into the bowl, and the sound vanished. "Go now," she said urgently. "He knows you're here." Amara fled into the night, her mind spinning. The streets were empty, the moon veiled by clouds. She drove toward the forest road, the engine roaring through the silence. In the rearview mirror, 2 headlights appeared, distant but following. Her blood ran cold. She pressed harder on the accelerator, but the lights stayed close. Then her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. "Turn back, Amara. You're not ready to face the truth." No name. But she knew who it was from, and when she looked in the mirror again, the car behind her was gone, but a faint reflection of a black mask glimmered on her back seat. She screamed. The car swerved, and the night swallowed her whole. The car screeched to a halt just before the riverbank. Smoke rose from the hood, and Amara stumbled out, gasping for air. The night was heavy with mist, the air thick with the smell of damp soil and decay. Somewhere in the distance, she heard drumming, slow, rhythmic, ancient, the kind of sound that made your heart remember fear. She looked around, her phone light trembling in her hand. The road had vanished behind her, swallowed by fog. Only the river stretched ahead, its dark surface rippling like liquid glass. On the far side, half hidden by trees, stood something that looked like a small temple, black stone walls wrapped in vines. The whispering shrine, every instinct screamed at her to run. But Mama Njosi's words echoed in her head. Burn the shrine, and his bond will crumble. Amara crossed the river using an old wooden bridge. The planks groaned under her weight. With each step, the drums grew louder, not from outside, but from within her own head. When she finally reached the other side, she saw the shrine up close. Its walls were etched with carvings of faceless figures kneeling before a massive serpent. And at the entrance, the words, "Sins must be fed," were painted in crimson. Her hands shook as she stepped inside. The air was cold, suffocating. Candles burned low on the ground, and in the center of the room stood an altar made of bones. Upon it lay a small black book, its cover pulsing faintly as if alive. Amara opened it with trembling fingers. Inside were names, dozens of them, each written in blood. She turned the pages faster, her eyes wide with horror, until she found one that stopped her heart. Amara Nuosu, to be taken by the next moon. Her hands dropped the book. The sound echoed through the shrine like a scream, and then she heard him, looking for answers. "My love." Chike's voice, calm, smosh, smooth, and close. She turned, and there he was, standing at the doorway, the black mask dangling from his hand. His white shirt was soaked from the rain, his face half lit by the candlelight. "How did you find me?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You think I didn't know where you'd go? I knew the moment you met Mama Ngozi. She was one of us, once." Amara's heart froze. "You're lying." He stepped closer. "She told you to burn the shrine, didn't she? To destroy it and free yourself. But the truth, Amara, is that the shrine doesn't hold my curse. It holds yours." She stumbled back. "Mine," he nodded. "You think I brought this darkness home?" "No, my dear. It came with you. The night I married you, the spirit marked us both. You are the balance, the one who must die so I can live. It's been decided since the beginning." Amara's breath came in sharp gasps. "No, you're insane." Chike raised the black mask, slipping it over his face. "Maybe, but only one of us will leave this place alive." Suddenly, the ground trembled. The candles flared, and a wind roared through the shrine, carrying voices, hundreds of them, whispering her name. The serpent carvings on the wall began to move, their stone bodies writhing like living creatures. Amara grabbed a torch from the wall and hurled it onto the altar. Flames exploded upward, licking the walls. Chike roared and lunged at her, his hands like claws. She ducked, kicking the black book into the fire. The shrieks grew louder, the whispers turning into screams. He shouted, "It's already inside you." Amara stumbled toward the door, coughing from the smoke. Behind her, the shrine cracked apart as the serpent carvings shattered into dust. Chike's voice was swallowed by the roaring flames. She ran across the bridge, firelight reflecting on the river's surface. The moment she stepped onto the other side, the bridge collapsed into the water with a splash. She turned to look back, but the shrine was gone. Only ashes floated on the river, glowing faintly like dying stars. Then, from the water's reflection, she saw it, a faint image behind her, a black mask. The next morning, Amara woke up on the riverbank, her body cold and her clothes soaked in dew. Birds called softly from the trees, and the forest was still, as if nothing had happened. The shrine was gone. Only a pile of blackened stones remained on the far side of the river. For a long moment, she just sat there, trembling, replaying everything in her mind. The fire, Chike's voice, the collapsing bridge. She should have felt relief, but instead, there was an emptiness inside her, a strange silence that didn't belong. When she finally made her way back to the city, the world looked different. The sky felt too bright, the sounds too sharp. At home, the mansion was quiet. No guards, no servants, no sign of Chike. She stepped through the front door, half expecting to find him waiting, but there was only stillness. She walked into the study. The wall where sins must be fed had once been written was now blank, as if it had never existed. The wooden box was gone. Every photograph, every trace of darkness erased. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to breathe. Maybe it was really over. Maybe Mama Ngozi had been right. The shrine was the key. She took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the smell of smoke and fear. Later, she sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunset. For a moment, she almost smiled. Then, she heard it, a whisper, soft, familiar, coming from somewhere inside the house. Her heart stopped. She stood, listening. Nothing, just the wind. But when she turned toward the mirror, she saw something that made her skin crawl. Her reflection didn't move. She blinked, and it blinked a second too late. "Not again," she whispered. "Please, not again." The reflection smiled, a slow, chilling smile that she hadn't made. Then it whispered, in Chike's voice, "You freed me." Amara stumbled back, knocking over a vase. The sound shattered through the silence. When she looked again, the reflection was normal, just her own frightened face staring back. She backed out of the room and grabbed her phone. She needed help. Mama Ngozi, she'd know what to do. But when she dialed the number, a man's voice answered. "This number is no longer in service," he said coldly. "Mama Ngozi passed away 3 years ago." The phone slipped from her hands. 3 years? But she'd spoken to her last night, seen her, touched her. The world tilted around her. Was everything a lie? That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Cheek's face in the flames, whispering those same words, "You freed me." Around midnight, a knock echoed through the house, slow, deliberate. She froze. The door creaked open on its own, though there was no wind. "Amara," a voice called, calm, soft, and horribly familiar. She turned toward the hallway, her pulse racing. A tall shadow stood there, half hidden by darkness. As it stepped into the light, her breath caught. It was Chike, or something that wore his shape. His eyes were pitch black, his skin pale as ash. "I told you," he said, his voice echoing like it came from a cave. "The shrine didn't trap me. It protected you. But now that it's gone," he smiled, that same smile that once charmed her, now twisted with something demonic. "There's nothing keeping me from you." Amara ran. She sprinted up the stairs, slamming doors behind her, searching for anything to defend herself. But every door she closed opened again with a creak. The air grew colder. The lights flickered. In the mirror on the hallway wall, she caught a glimpse of herself again, but this time the reflection wasn't hers. It was Cheeky's masked face, staring back, whispering, "You can't run from what's inside." Amara screamed, smashing the mirror with a lamp. Shards scattered everywhere, each piece reflecting a tiny version of the mask. Her knees gave way. She fell to the floor, sobbing. Then, from somewhere deep inside her chest, she heard it, a heartbeat that wasn't hers, slow, heavy, dark. She pressed her hands against her heart, her breath coming in short bursts. The voice echoed again inside her mind, now clearer than ever. The shrine burned, Amara, but the spirit needed a new home. And in that moment, she realized it was never gone. It was inside her. The morning sun rose blood-red over Lagos, yet inside Amara's mansion, darkness still lingered. She hadn't slept. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound felt like a whisper calling her name. Her eyes were hollow, her lips pale. She could still hear his voice. She started noticing things that shouldn't be happening. The water in her glass rippled, though the air was still. The radio turned on by itself, playing an old Yoruba chant, one she had heard at the shrine. She unplugged it, but the sound continued, coming from inside the walls. When she looked into the mirror again, she didn't see Chike this time. She saw herself, but her eyes were black. The reflection spoke in his voice. "You carried me out of the fire," it said. "Now I live through you." Amara screamed and stumbled back. The mirror cracked, but the reflection kept speaking, the glass shaking violently. "You thought you destroyed me. You only made me stronger." She covered her ears, shouting, "Get out of my head." But Chike laughed, that deep, mocking laugh she once loved. "You can't separate what's already joined. The spirit of the shrine needs a vessel, Amara. You are that vessel now." She fell to her knees, trembling. Her body began to shake, as if something inside her was trying to crawl out. Her vision blurred. Her skin grew hot, then cold. The floor beneath her seemed to breathe, and then silence. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer in her house. She stood in a wide open field, under a red sky. Ash fell like snow. A river ran black beside her, and at its edge stood the whispering shrine, whole again. "No," she whispered. "I burned you." "You did," said a voice behind her. "But every fire births new life." She turned. Chike stood there, dressed in white this time, no mask. His smile was gentle, almost kind. "This is where we began, Amara, and this is where you'll end." She looked down at her hands. They were glowing faintly, lines of red light pulsing beneath her skin. "What's happening to me?" "The spirit is merging with you," Chike said calmly. "You can fight it and die, or embrace it and live forever with me." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You murdered people for this curse. You destroyed lives. And now you want me to continue it?" Chike took a slow step closer. "We can rebuild everything. The spirit chose us, don't you see? Together we can be gods." Amara shook her head. "If being a god means becoming a monster, I'd rather die human." For the first time, Chike's calm faded. His smile twisted into fury. "Then die you shall." He raised his hand, and the ground split open. From the river crawled black shadows, twisted forms of the men he had once killed, their eyes hollow, their mouths whispering her name. Amara screamed as they reached for her, their cold hands pulling at her legs. She remembered Mama Njosi's voice, "When the spirit takes you, only your will can cast it out." Closing her eyes, she placed her hand on her chest and whispered, "I am not your vessel." A surge of light burst from her palms, blinding white against the red sky. The spirit screamed, retreating into the shadows. Chike roared, covering his face. But the voice inside her, the spirit itself, whispered softly. You cannot destroy what you are. Amara opened her eyes and saw her reflection in the river. Her face was still hers, but her eyes glowed faintly red. She could feel the power still pulsing within her. The spirit hadn't left. It was waiting, watching. When she looked up again, Chaik was gone. The shrine crumbled into dust. The field turned to mist, and then she was back, lying on her living room floor, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Everything was normal, silent, still, but deep inside, she felt it, a second heartbeat, slow, patient, waiting for its moment. Amara sat up, staring at the cracked mirror across the room. Her reflection smiled at her. She did not. For days, Amara lived like a ghost inside her own home. Curtains drawn, mirrors covered. She barely ate or slept. The voice inside her had grown quiet, but it was still there, whispering in her dreams, calling her by name in the dark. Sometimes it used Chaik's voice, soft and loving. Other times it sounded like 100 mouths whispering from the shadows. She tried everything: prayers, church visits, even traditional cleansing rituals. But nothing worked. Every pastor she met turned pale when he looked at her. One of them, trembling, told her, "There's something ancient in you, my child, something older than faith itself." The spirit was patient. It waited for the right moment, the night of the next full moon. That evening, a storm rolled in, shaking the windows. Thunder roared like the anger of forgotten gods. Amara sat on the floor, surrounded by candles, holding the last thing she had of Chiki's, the black mask. She had tried burning it, but it always reappeared, untouched. On her bed the next morning, she knew now that there was only one way to end it. Not by running, not by praying, but by offering herself one final sacrifice to close the circle. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A text appeared on the screen. It's time. No number. No name. The lights flickered. When she looked up, the mask was gone from her hands, now hanging on the wall, just as it had been the night she first found the box. A gust of wind blew out all the candles. Then came his voice, calm and deep, echoing through the house. "You've carried me long enough, my love. Now set me free." "Free?" she whispered. "By killing me." "By joining me," the voice replied. "The body cannot serve two souls. One must offer itself. Only then can the curse end." Amara's heart pounded. She looked toward the mirror in the hall, the only one she hadn't covered. It shimmered faintly, and in its reflection stood Chaik, smiling that same calm smile. He raised his hand toward her. "Come," he said softly, "let it end." Amara stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "You destroyed my life," she whispered. "You made me a vessel for your sins. And yet," he said gently, "you are the only one who can save us." She closed her eyes, her breath trembling. The storm outside grew louder. Lightning flashed, illuminating the words she had carved on the wall days ago. "I am not your vessel." Something inside her snapped. "No," she said, her voice rising. "I will not join you. I will end you." The reflection smile faded. "You can't destroy me. I am in your blood. Then I'll destroy that too." Amara grabbed a shard of glass from the broken mirror, its edge gleaming in the candlelight. She pressed it against her palm, drawing blood. The moment her blood touched the mask, the house began to shake. The walls darkened, symbols appearing like burning scars. A scream erupted from every corner. Hundreds of voices crying out. The air grew thick, the candles bursting into flame. Chike's voice howled. "Do you think pain can set you free?" Amara shouted through the chaos. "Not pain, truth." She lifted her bleeding hand high and slammed it against the mask. Instantly, light exploded through the room, blinding, white, pure. The voices screamed louder, twisting in agony. The mask cracked, its surface splintering into dust. The storm outside stopped. Silence fell. When the light faded, Amara collapsed to the floor, gasping. The house was quiet again. The mask was gone, truly gone. The whispers had stopped. She looked at her reflection in the shattered glass. Her eyes were brown again. Her pulse was slow, peaceful, for the first time in months. She felt alone, and it was beautiful. Morning came with soft light spilling through the curtains. Amara walked outside, barefoot, breathing in the scent of rain and earth. The world looked new, but as she turned to close the door behind her, she caught something in the reflection of the window, a faint shape, standing just over her shoulder. A man in white, smiling, and then, in a whisper only she could hear, "Sins must always be fed." The reflection vanished. Amara stood frozen, staring at her trembling hands. Then she whispered to herself, half in prayer, half in fear. Not this time. She walked into the sunrise, leaving the mansion and whatever still haunted it behind. But far away, by the river of ashes, the black mask floated gently on the water once more.